Hey everybody, welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast here on a Monday. Dan Labbe with Mary Kay Cabot, a Hey Mary Kay edition of the podcast. All these questions coming from our Football Insider subscribers. If you want to get involved with that, it's cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. These are from our texters. But Mary Kay, before we get to this, when you put your call out for questions, you did mention this to our texters, and of course, we've gotten, I guess, two of the three other AFC North coaches to respond yet. I don't think John Harbaugh has had a chance to weigh in.
No, he has.
Oh, he has weighed in at this point. Okay, so
yes, he has.
To set this up real quick, Mike Tomlin today was asked about the Browns trading Joe Flacco to the Bengals. He was not happy about it. He took a shot at Andrew Berry by name. Of course, look, Mike Tomlin has an agenda here. He's trying to win the AFC North. The Bengals were left for dead. And the Browns trade them Joe Flacco, and it helps them. So I certainly see where Mike Tomlin is coming from. But it's pretty rare that we see or hear something like this, a direct attack in a lot of ways at another general manager. And now apparently all three other coaches have weighed in. Kevin had a no comment. Zach Taylor said he's just happy they did it. So what did Harbaugh say? Because I hadn't seen that yet.
He just said he was surprised.
Okay.
But he didn't really have, a dog in the race yet because he doesn't have a game against either team for a little while. But he did say that he was surprised. It is kind of funny because, look, Mike Tomlin, instead of trying to game plan for Jake Browning, when Joe Flacco is on his game and has people to throw to, he can get that ball to Jamar Chase. He can get that ball to T. Higgins and Yossi Vash. So I can see why Mike Tomlin is feeling a little bit ornery about the Browns doing this. And who knows, maybe he thinks there was a method to their madness, right? Help them knock off the Steelers or something. I don't know. I don't really think that was in their mental paradigm when they made this trade. I think, and I've written this a few times, they were not going to make this trade unless the Bengals were going to start Joe Flacco. Now, does that seem counterintuitive and weird? They weren't going to do it. They would have kept him as their backup quarterback if he was just going to go to Cincinnati and be their backup. But they let him go, have an opportunity to start after they benched him here, brought him here, benched him. They know he doesn't want to be sitting on the bench. They know that he doesn't want to have his career be over yet. So they let him go somewhere where he has a chance to play.
So here, I'll just read Tomlin's quote so we've got it. To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings. I think more than anything, because again, on paper, the Browns made a good trade. If we just take the Bengals, if we just picked some random team, let's say this was the New Orleans Saints or something. The Browns traded a guy that they weren't planning to play anymore, and they moved up some picks in the draft. Not an amazing trade, not some world earth-shattering deal, but a trade that got them a little bit of a better asset to move a guy that wasn't going to play anymore. The in-division thing is what makes this a little bit more obviously touchy with Mike Tomlin. I'm sure John Harbaugh didn't love it. Zach Taylor obviously did love it. Joe played okay yesterday, especially in the second half. I don't know if he's going to turn the Bengals' fortunes because that defense couldn't get off the field when they needed to yesterday. And that's been an issue all season. But I just think this is a case of two teams that right now kind of view where this season is going differently. The Steelers want to win the AFC North. They want to win a Super Bowl. The Browns were okay basically throwing a life preserver to a team that if they truly believed they had a chance to get back in the North and back in the wild card race, they gave them a starting quarterback. I think there's just a philosophical difference here, and I understand why Mike Tomlin would be upset about it. But I do also think it says something, and I said this last week after the trade, I think it says something about how Andrew Berry kind of views where this season is going.
Yeah, I think it does. And I also think that they just were not concerned about this shifting the balance of power in the AFC North. I don't think that they were worried about, now what if this gets to the point where the Bengals start winning some games and knock us out of the playoffs? I don't know why they wouldn't have at least thought about that, because if Joe gets hot with those receivers, you never know what can happen. I mean, you just never know what can happen. Now at 1-5, they probably aren't going anywhere. They've got a 2.3% chance of making the playoffs. The only way that something would happen for them now is if they go on a winning streak. And that's not going to be easy because they do have some winnable games coming up, but the Patriots are in there too. And that's happening after the Dolphins game at home this week. They have to go to New England and face now a really, really tough Mike Vrabel coached Patriots team. And you know he's not going to want to lose to the football team where he spent a year consulting and working with these guys. He knows a lot about the Cleveland Browns. He knows what makes them tick. He knows their scheme. He knows a lot about this football team. And he is not going to want to lose to the Cleveland Browns. There's no question about that. But then there's a couple more after that where you're like, okay, maybe they could win. But the only way that Browns can claw their way back in this thing is if they win like 4 out of the next 5. And I don't see that happening with what's going on with this offense right now.
Right. And again, I think like if they truly believed they could get back in this, I just don't think you're helping Cincinnati out. Like, end of story, because that's the team you're chasing. And you know, to your point, yeah, New England's going to be tough. I don't think this team can look at any game as winnable. I mean, obviously they look at every game as winnable, but I don't think people should be looking at Miami and saying Browns will win that, or even the Jets. Oh, the Browns. I just think this offense is so broken right now that until we see it start to turn the corner, I don't know. Now, I'm not saying that they can't beat the Dolphins. I don't know who I'm going to pick in that game. And the Browns are favored by 2.5 points in this game. Maybe the first time this year they've been favored. So the Dolphins are a mess, but it's really hard to look at even a team like that and say, you know, the Browns are definitely going to win that game just because this offense is so broken right now.
That's right. And this is the first time that they've been favored this season. And not only is it the first time they've been favored, they have been underdogs by a lot. Sometimes it's, 10 points, 11 points, 8.5 points, whatever. So this is the first time that they've been favored, at least early in the week they have. So they are. So we'll see how that goes. But as you mentioned, no, you cannot look at any game and think, oh, that's a lock. They're winning this game. There's no way you can do that. But there are what I would call more winnable games, right?
Right,
I mean, like
exactly. It's more winnable than like Detroit or
exactly.
like healthy Baltimore back in week 2.
Yeah. We didn't think that they were going to go into Detroit and win that game. And now when we have to pick these next 4 or 5 games, we're going to have to think about it a little bit, right? I mean, we're going to have to think. I will probably pick them to beat the Dolphins. I might pick them to beat the Jets and a couple of other teams here. Maybe the Raiders. I don't know. We'll see. But not the Patriots. I'm not going to pick them to beat the Patriots. I just think that one's going to be a really, really tough one. Mike Vrabel has them playing really, really well. And it's ironic because Brian Callahan just got fired today by the Titans, and they had fired Mike Vrabel, and now he's up there in New England doing a really, really nice job, and they had to go ahead and fire Brian Callahan already in the middle of his second season only. So that's just life in the NFL. But yeah, I think the Browns have an opportunity to stack a couple of wins together, but they got to do it.
Yeah, and I was just curious because I haven't looked this up yet. The Dolphins defense is awful, like in every imaginable category. Whether you're looking at cumulative yards per play, rushing, passing, this is statistically, this is a very bad defense. So they should win this game, which I think actually leads into this next question, right? This is sort of the test, I guess, for where this team is at against Miami, against the Jets. Are they in a class at least above those teams? Paul Warner in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Hey, Mary Kay, are Mike McDaniel and Kevin Stefanski coaching for their jobs on Sunday? Mike McDaniel, maybe. I don't know about Kevin Stefanski.
I still don't really see the Browns making a change in the middle of the season. And I don't even know if they would make a change after the season, because we've heard them so many times talk about the fact that they have this eye towards the 2026 draft when they think they can get their franchise quarterback. So I don't know. I don't know if he's on the hot seat at all, or if they're just going to sit tight and exercise patience and just move forward with Kevin Stefanski and just keep going. Part of it might depend on how things go for the rest of this season. But I don't necessarily see them making a change in the middle of the season. But I'll tell you what, I mean, stranger things have happened. We don't really know what Jimmy Haslam is thinking right now. We don't know if they are massively, massively disappointed with this season or if they expected it to be like this. We don't know what veterans are saying to them and getting in people's ear. You just don't really know. Sometimes these things can take on a life of their own. And sometimes there is the notion of, if you see an opportunity to hire someone else that you like or want, that can hasten things or change the game a little bit. I don't have any reason to believe that any of that is going on right now. I think that they still feel really good about Kevin Stefanski. And look, he doesn't have a whole lot to work with right now. I mean, would you really, if you were a coach, Dan, would you want to go into Pittsburgh with that group of players? And hey, maybe down the road, that group of players are going to be really, really good. But to go into Pittsburgh with Gage Larvidan and Isaiah Bond and Harold Fannin and Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson and Dylan Gabriel and Jamari Thrash, that's a tall order. That's a tall order to put those young guys all in one offense together against the likes of Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. I mean, you just, the list goes on and on. Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig. I mean, these are good, veteran, physical, nasty, violent football players. And that's a tall order for, for a young group of guys who don't really know the level of intensity yet of this AFC North rival.
Yeah, and like on top of that, as you list off some of those names, that like not all of those guys, I don't view all of those guys as like future pieces, right? Harold Fannin, Quinshon Judkins, they're hoping Dylan Gabriel will become that. They're hoping Dylan Sampson will have some kind of role. I've said, like, if Dylan Sampson turns into like the next Jerome Ford, that's pretty good for a 4th round pick. So you're hoping those guys turn into something, but after that, it's kind of maybe they're taking this roll of the dice on Isaiah Bond, who maybe they would have drafted him in the 2nd or 3rd round, so they're taking a chance with him as an undrafted free agent. Gage Larvidan's a nice story, but he's an undersized guy who didn't put up big numbers in college. I think there's probably a role for him in the return game, or maybe as an extra receiver or something. Yeah, I mean, it's not just young guys. It's some of these young guys are like getting thrown into positions where they shouldn't be. Gage Larvidan was thrown into some positions that it's probably too soon for a guy like that. And that just sort of has a domino effect. Now, I will say on the other side, and part of this is the benefit of having Aaron Rodgers. You saw a team in the Steelers that after DK Metcalf, this team was really shorthanded at receiver. Mm-hmm. And they were able to figure some things out on that offensive side of the ball. Arthur Smith was able to get some things going in that passing game with guys who previously hadn't been very productive. So there's a balance, right? Like that's why I keep kind of saying this is a collective thing. This isn't just point the finger at Kevin. This isn't just point the finger at the quarterback. That everybody has had a hand in this, from the build to the play calling to at some level the players. All of it, like, it's just very flawed right now, and they've got to kind of figure out how to make it work. And that's a tough thing to do in Pittsburgh against that defense. For, again, statistically not a great defense, but like you said, that is a physical defense that they get a little momentum behind them, they're coming at you.
Right, and if you can't keep the run viable, things start to break down, and then you've got tackle issues. Jack Conklin, even though, and he's been playing well these past couple of games, but he's coming off of an elbow injury, so he's not 100%. And then they started a brand new left tackle in Cab Robinson, who's only been here for less than 2 weeks. So he's still learning the blocking schemes. They always talk about how the 5 offensive linemen have to be working in concert as like 5 fingers on a hand or 5 fingers on a glove or whatever they say. They have to be a well-oiled machine, and they're not right now. And so that presents issues. And then these teams are, doing different things, blitzing and whatnot. And you've got to have, your whole blocking game has got to be working in concert. And David Njoku was in and out of this game. There were so many mistakes. The offense is just ragged. It's just ragged and raw. And Dylan was out there just fighting and fighting, but it's really hard to watch this offense right now. It just is not, it's just not good. And it'll probably look a whole lot better. I think it will look a whole lot better against the Dolphins. I mean, the Steelers in Pittsburgh with those veteran guys, you're not going to get away with that there. You're just not going to be able to take those players into Pittsburgh and be successful. But you also need your veteran players to step up for you, especially when you have so many rookies. So Jerry Jeudy, who's pressing right now, let's be honest, Jerry's pressing. And they still have total faith in him, but they need him to work through this. He's working through dropping passes and clutch passes passes that they really need him to catch at crucial points in the game. David Njoku, dropping passes. Harold Fannin dropped a pass. And then they're not necessarily winning their contested balls. There were 8 breakups yesterday. So you've got to have the more veteran guys doing a better job than they're doing while these rookies are coming up the learning curve. And Said Tillman, your number 2 receiver, is still on injured reserve. So it just has been a recipe for disaster and not a great environment or cockpit for a young rookie quarterback to go in and try to succeed.
Right. And so I think that's why this game Sunday is so important. Right. And to the question, I would be shocked no matter what happens on Sunday. I would be shocked if Monday we're talking about a coaching change for the Browns. Now, for the Dolphins, if they lose that game, maybe. It seems like that has been teetering for a while. But I think the Haslams have generally gotten over this knee-jerk reaction. I mean, look, we're in year 6 of this regime. So I think we can say they've gotten over kind of knee-jerk reactions like that. But if they lose this game and the offense continues to look bad, I think that's when it starts to feel like maybe something could be on the table if they don't get this thing turned around over the course of the rest of the season. Because this is a team that you should be better than, especially at home, right? So speaking to the Jets in a couple weeks, that's a team that you should be better than and be able to beat, even though that game's on the road. The Raiders probably fall into that category. I'll admit I haven't watched a lot of the Raiders, but just I know they've been a little bit of a mess. So these are the games that kind of could dictate a little bit of Kevin's future. Like if you look bad against the bad teams, then I think you have to start asking some real questions about the viability of this thing.
Yeah, and the the unfortunate thing for the Browns is the fact that they had a couple of games right in their grasp and they let them go. So they really should have 2 more victories right now than they have, just because of some very, very correctable mistakes that they did not need to make. And so I think that's probably one of the toughest things probably for fans to take is the fact that the Browns at this moment in time, with everything that's happened, could still be in the hunt. They could absolutely still be in the hunt. Not necessarily right in it, but close enough to hang around and see if anything good could happen in the second half. But they blew it. They blew a couple of opportunities. Now they're going to have to steal a couple of opportunities back, but the young offense would have to grow up very, very quickly. So they've got to find a way to run the ball. Teams are going to stack that box. They're not going to respect the pass. They've got to stick with it. They've got to find a way to try to pound that football and play Cleveland Browns running football. You got to take advantage of Quinshon Judkins. He's a mini Nick Chubb, not even a smaller version of Nick Chubb. He's the same size as Nick Chubb. He is Nick Chubb light. At some point, people, I think, will be talking about him in the same breath as Nick Chubb. Maybe not quite there, but I think he has the potential to get close. I think he looks really, really good. So you've got to ride your workhorse back. You definitely have to do that. You've got to find a way to get that job done. And then I really have a hard time believing that you can't have a better passing game than they have right now. But sometimes when they do start to generate something a little bit, you get the drops or the penalties or the mistakes. So, or you're taking a sack, whatever. It's just not going well. And in the red zone, I thought, I thought Dylan really struggled either when in the red zone or throwing into the red zone or throwing into the end zone, where he was off on that pass to Jerry Jeudy. He was wide in the end zone. I mean, you can't do that. You've got to make those throws. There was a throw where he overthrew David Njoku in the end zone. So he just had a number of passes that were errant passes in the red zone, and that can't happen. And that's when you start to think about, what could Shador do in that type of
Uh-oh.
situation, right? But I don't think he's ready to do the other things necessarily. I don't think he's ready to escape trouble or slide. Not that Gabriel did it very well yesterday either, but I just don't know if he's ready for the kind of situation that Dylan Gabriel was in yesterday and everything that he had to do to try to operate yesterday. I don't know if Shador is necessarily ready for all of that because he doesn't even have as much mobility as Dylan Gabriel has. But I do think that he has Dylan beat in the accuracy department. Now, in order to get there to that point, you have to have time to throw the ball and you have to know what you're looking at and you have to be able to get it out quickly enough, because precision in the passing game comes from the timing of getting the ball out on time and having that timing with your receivers. But just in terms of sheer accuracy, he's got Dylan beat in that particular category.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We've seen that accuracy even going back to college. But the issue is, how would he have dealt with that pressure yesterday? And, I think we saw it against the Rams, and again, we saw that in college too. How many of those plays turn into, this is not unrealistic with what we've seen from him, turn into a 15-yard loss or a 20-yard loss. So, and the problem is that's not something we're going to know until he's on the field again. They can't even know that watching practice. Like, if he's gotten over those habits, if he's like, we aren't going to know if he's developed there and grown there until he actually gets out on the field and plays. Probably going to happen at some point this year, but I just don't know that there's a rush to do that, because I don't think it would have gone that much differently yesterday, just because, to your point, maybe he makes that throw to David, right? Maybe he makes that throw to Jerry on the scramble drill, but also there's probably some negative plays there that Dylan Gabriel didn't have, even though he had certainly his fair share of them. So I almost feel like it would have just been a wash in a lot of ways. I don't know that Shador fixes anything that happened offensively in that game.
Yeah, and you're right. It could have been 50-7. And we just, we don't really know. We don't really know how that would have gone. We don't know how he would have handled all that crazy pressure and everything that he would have had coming at him in Pittsburgh. We have no idea. And I think the way that game went, with Dylan throwing the ball 52 times, I really do think that a mercy benching in the fourth quarter would have been in order to get, let him get out of there, but you didn't have anyone else to put in there. And this is one of the reasons why I believed that Bailey should have been the number 2 for this game, because you could have thrown Bailey Zappi in there, and Bailey Zappi could have navigated whatever was going on in that fourth quarter. He started in Baltimore last year. He's defeated the Steelers in Pittsburgh. He defeated the Browns in his rookie season. So he knows the level of intensity of AFC North football. He knows what those Steelers defenders are all about. He knows this offense. And I think it would have been something that you could have done perhaps in the fourth quarter to just spare Dylan getting hit anymore. I mean, that's not how you support a rookie quarterback, by letting him get hit 16 times. At some point, you have to get him out of harm's way. And I think he was in harm's way, especially as you get down there into the fourth quarter.
Right. And because there's so much that comes with Shador Sanders and that Shador Sanders experience, like, it just would have been complete chaos if he goes in there and completes a couple of garbage time throws. They just, again, sometimes they make choices and they leave themselves in positions like that. And they have to deal with those consequences. So you said something earlier, and I think it leads into this question from Scott Mandel in Los Angeles. And you talked about how some of these games have kind of come down to a kick or a defensive stop. Hey, Mary Kay, to try to put the last month in perspective, before the season began, looking at the horrible schedule the Browns had, weren't most expectations 1-5? Seems all this panic is unwarranted, considering they are where most folks expected. Granted, the offense is much worse than expected, but the defense is much better. And so when I was reading this question, I was trying to figure out, like, it is true. We talked about the schedule is tough. What's the expectation against this early schedule? But I think that's probably the frustration is you lost a game on 2 missed kicks and interceptions off guys' hands. Now maybe that's canceled out by the Green Bay win. You lose a game that you led 21-17 with 80 yards between the end zone and Carson Wentz, and your defense can get off the field. I think that's part of the frustration is these games, you are in some of these games. You could even argue they were in that Baltimore game for longer than people expected. And they weren't able to win any of them. So I guess for me, that's sort of where I didn't expect them to be great, but it's still disappointing when you lose games that are right there for the taking.
That's right. And I have long felt, and I still feel this way, that heading into this season, I believe that there was enough talent on this football team, especially defensively, and that has played out. But I felt there was also enough offensive talent on this football team that if you had plugged in a good quarterback and got good quarterback play out of someone, I think that they would have at least 2 more victories right now, maybe 3. So I don't think 1-5 was necessarily expected. Let's suppose that Kenny Pickett had stayed healthy and he was one of those guys that they kind of plucked out of, picked him up off the mat and threw him into the NFL and got him kind of rolling again in an offense that's very quarterback friendly. And if he wasn't turning the ball over, and Quinshon Judkins, it would have helped if Quinshon had been around from the start, but and Quinshon Judkins running the ball, and then you've got Ced Tillman taking that step up. You've got Jerry. I think Jerry would have performed better from the start if things hadn't kind of gone south right away the way that they have. I think at some point he just kind of started pressing, and he still is in pressing mode a little bit. I think he sees that there's so much responsibility on him. And, David Njoku, to a certain extent, has gotten off to a rocky start. So I still think that they were a good quarterback away, not just good quarterback away, but good quarterback play away from hanging around this season, hanging around a little bit. And, maybe you get to 7 games, 8 games. But what happened with Joe Flacco here with the Cleveland Browns, for a number of reasons, is that he just turned the ball over too much. 8 turnovers in 4 games. It cost them. And it's hard to dig out of that hole. But if they had to do it all over again this season, I just have to wonder if they could not have come up with a better bridge quarterback situation. And there weren't really very many, to be honest with you, out there. There really weren't. But if they could have found a better bridge, then I think they could have done a little something different than what is going on right now.
Okay, let's move to this question. We got a lot of folks who brought this name up because obviously the news of the day is the Tennessee Titans making a coaching change. Brian Callahan is out. So Mavro and Sebus, I picked your question. Hey, Mary Kay, should the Browns talk to Tennessee about getting Bill Callahan? He's suggesting a trade, getting Bill Callahan and having him at least consult with the offense and the offensive.
Well, funny you should say that, because I tweeted that earlier today. I quote tweeted the Titans showing that they fired Brian Callahan, his son, and said maybe the Browns can get Bill back as a senior offensive assistant. And I would do that in a heartbeat. I think he's so good with the blocking schemes. I think they've got an offensive line coach now, but I think he can help with the red zone, with the blocking, with the running game. He's just a wealth of information. He's so good. He knows this personnel. He knows this scheme. He knows Kevin. I'm sure he's under contract and can't get out of it. But I would be on the phone with the Titans trying to do whatever I could to get Bill Callahan here. I would do it.
Yeah, and even this is where maybe doing right by a guy could help you out. Even if it's even if it's next season. If you could get him back this season, that would be great. But even if going into next year, if everyone's still around, I think bringing him back would be a very, very smart move in some role, because even Kevin talked about having his office right next to him and his ability to go over there and pick his brain and kind of talk through situations and talk through things with him. I think that was really important to just have that guy in the building. So it would be interesting if he hits the free agent market, the coaching free agent market. I think there's going to be a whole lot of teams that are very interested in making Bill Callahan maybe their offensive line coach. I don't know that position would be available again if things stay status quo for the Browns, but if they can get him back in this building, that would be a huge win for this team.
It really would. He has taken guys that you wouldn't think could succeed or excel in a football game, and he's thrown them in there and they swim. And he's done a really nice job with that. He did a great job with DeJuan Jones. He got the most that he possibly could out of Jed Wills. He's a really good coach. He's a really, really good coach, and he just knows so much about that position and about just blocking and running and all of that. I think he's a mind that they could really use right now. Probably not going to happen. Probably would be a little bit too difficult, but I know he liked it here a lot. The only reason why he left is because he went to be with his son and they let him out to go do that. And so maybe he would be willing to repay the favor. Once again, I don't know if these guys are being given an opportunity to go look around or whatever. But if so, I would just seize that moment.
Okay, let's let's get to this one. This is kind of a fun one, I guess. Not so fun. I don't know. This is from our guy Christian in Hudson, who sends us texts all the time. Hey, Mary Kay. My wife is angry that I continue to hijack our Sundays to watch losing Cleveland Browns football. So how can I convince her to continue to condone my wasting every Sunday afternoon watching a groundhog style rinse and repeat youth football offense? Please help me. Please help save me from further marital discord. This is the Browns fan struggle, I think, for a lot of people. How do you justify still? Look, this is why people love the Cleveland Browns. Win or lose, they watch them every single week. So how does our guy Christian justify that and not get divorced? I guess that's what he's asking.
Yeah, I feel your pain. I really do. I mean, this is really difficult. But if you are a diehard fan, I think there are some reasons to tune in this season because it looks to me like a lot of these rookies from this year are going to be really good. And I think it's fun to turn on the television and watch what Carson Schlesinger is doing. I think it's fun for Browns fans to see how Mason Graham is coming along. And then you go over to the offensive side of the ball, and yeah, it's raw and it's uneven right now, and it's difficult to watch. But Quinshawn, if they can get this thing figured out a little bit and commit to the run, then I think Quinshawn is going to be really, really fun to watch. They have to get Dylan Sampson untracked and figure out how to work with him a little bit better. And then, and then some of the rookie receivers. I mean, I think, if they can get the tackle situation settled down a little bit, and if Cam Robinson comes up the learning curve here a little bit more and settles in at that spot, then they'll have a little bit more time to throw. If Jerry Jeudy comes around, if David Njoku comes around, I think Harold Fannin is already really fun to watch, even in this game, even though he had that drop, a crucial drop at the 12 in the red zone. Even though he had that, he still caught 7 passes of his 10 targets for 81 yards. One he had knocked away, so he had a couple breakups there, but that's life in the AFC North rivalry when you go into Pittsburgh. That is going to happen. They are going to do rookie hazing over there. There's no question about that. But for him to have 7 catches for 81 yards, that's pretty good. And, if they can get some of these other young guys up to speed a little bit more, they see something in Isaiah Bond. He's really got to come around and prove that he can cut it, and that he can cut it at a very, very high level. Now, he got thrust into a bigger role when Ced Tillman went out with a hamstring injury that landed him on injured reserve. So some of these guys are playing up when they're not necessarily all that ready for it. But I still think that it will be fun to watch those 2 running backs, to watch these young receivers, and above all, to watch Dylan and then Shador and see how they come along.
All right, this is my pitch to Christian. This is the solution in my mind. I'll run this by you and see what you think. Christian, you sit your wife down and you say, I'm going to make you a bet. If the Browns beat the Dolphins on Sunday, I'm going to keep watching them all year. If they lose to the Dolphins on Sunday, then next Sunday we're going apple picking, and then we're doing whatever you want the rest of the season on Sundays. That's kind of a sneaky win-win for Christian, because if they lose to the Dolphins, are you sure you want to keep watching them? Are you sure maybe it would be a good time to take a little bit of a break and just get away from them for a few weeks at least, or like a month or something. And if they win, then you get to keep watching. I think that's the play here. I think you just make that bet and you hope the Browns come through for you on Sunday.
Well, and you know what, Dan? It's interesting what you're saying, but Christian is one of our biggest
I'm
fans.
not
And
saying to stop paying attention to us. Still text
but if
us,
you're
check
not,
in every now and again, Christian, a little wellness check.
if you're not paying attention to the team, then I don't know if you're going to be listening to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast as much as you need to. And we certainly want everybody to stay on board with us. And once again, I think that the development of these rookies, I think that especially as we move into some of these games against defenses that are not as tough as the Steelers were in Pittsburgh, I think that there will be more plays to be made. And hey, who knows? The Shador show could be coming soon. I don't even know. I don't know what that's going to be like. We don't know. We have no idea what that's going to be like. It could be an unmitigated disaster. It could be great fun. We don't know. But you want to be tuning in all the time because you never know when that might happen.
There we go. Christian, let us know. Let us know what the decision is. Let us know how you decide to approach this. And if for some reason you do stop watching, if for some reason you do lose this argument, just remember you can keep tabs on everything that's happening by continuing to listen. Orange and Brown Talk podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify, watching YouTube, Cleveland Browns on cleveland.com. Getting our texts, that's Football Insider, cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. So don't lose touch with us here. We'll keep you informed of what's going on. If you lose your Sundays for some reason, we'll keep you informed of what's going on. But keep us in the loop. Now I'm invested. This is like a reality show. I want to know how this plays out for our guy Christian. Very curious. Okay, that'll do it for this edition of the podcast. Once again, those questions were from our Football Insider subscribers, so I told you how to get involved with that a couple times already. Go check that out. Mary Kay, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds great.